the Connecticut public school that, pursuant to Connecticut state law, posted a tampon dispenser in the boys' room. And how long did it take for the boys to react? And why don't you tell us what they did?
Well, the boys were boys. The boys will be boys. I think this is really a cute story of a sort of boys' revolt. I think there's a larger context to it, even globally, let alone just this little town in Connecticut. But yeah, so they ripped the tampons out. I mean, honestly, I'm shocked that they didn't just flush hundreds of them into the toilet and cause a problem. I mean, these are little, these are boys we're talking about. These are 10-year-old, 13-year-old boys.
It's like they knew that there'd be TV pictures of it. That's an amazing picture right there. Good for you, boys. It took them less than 20 minutes. They ripped it right out of the wall by the studs. It was down to the studs.
No, but I do think there's sort of a deeper context here, and we see this. This is now in polling showing up in country after country after country. When you poll young people of both sexes, you see that young women are turning very, very, very sharply to the left, and boys, sometimes in some countries a little more, in some countries a little less, but are trending more conservative. We're seeing that gap really open up between essentially young women and young men on politics. I think that's has a lot of worrying, maybe potential consequences for our ability to, settle down, have families, love each other, really learn from each other, men and women, in a complementary way. However, I do think we're going to see more revolt of the boys. I think we're going to see a lot more young boys and then into young men really revolting against a stifling culture that controversially you could say is longhouse or matriarchal, right? And they just want to rip those tampons off the off the
These boys
wall.
are starting to feel our pain. As upsetting as it might be to see a tampon dispenser in your bathroom, why don't you see what it's like to see a penis in your little girl's locker room? That's what the girls are having to experience. It's bad enough to see a tampon dispenser. I get it. I have two boys. Try seeing an adult male penis coming at you in the locker room like our friends up in Canada, where they're swimming against some 50-year-old dude who goes by Melody Weishart and is changing in front of the girls. These are barrier breakers that matter, that are important. They're significant culturally. They can be jarring to the young person. And I say, good on you boys in Brookfield, Connecticut. I'm cheering you on. And you know what I hope? I realize that your superintendent is beside himself. The principal, Mark Balada, said the dispenser, it was installed at 9:30 Wednesday morning, and by 9:52, tampons were on the floor. The newly installed distribution box was ripped off the wall, along with the masonry anchors, and the distribution box itself was destroyed. But he says we will reinstall the box in the boys' bathroom per state law. I say to you boys, they can't throw you all out. You go together. Get a group of you. Go in there. 50 boys. All of you, pull it down and pull the next one down and the one after that. And the one after that, get the girls to go in there and rip it off the wall and bring it over to the girls' room where it belongs. And Len, here's another postscript for you. Any girl who's posing as a boy, but actually still getting her period because she's a girl, can go through the extra hassle of shoving a tampon in her back pocket. She doesn't need to have a tampon dispenser in the boys' room. And if emergency strikes and she forgets a tampon, she can meander for 2 seconds into the girls' room to get one. To inconvenience, to make boys stop and pause to ask themselves, oh, gee, why would a boy need a tampon while they're just doing their business in the middle of the school day, is wrong, Kmele. It's wrong.
Well, I don't want to support or endorse any kind of vandalism in school, tearing it apart down to the studs and everything. Guys, just take it a little easy. I know Megyn just gave you some direct instructions. I'm asking you to maybe take it a little easy. But it is bizarre that this is the world that we live in now, where everything has been so thoroughly politicized, where inside of the school, inside of the boys' locker room is politicized, inside of the girls' changing room at the swimming pool is heavily, thoroughly, completely politicized. It does feel like the sort of thing where I have to imagine wherever you stand on these particular issues, you can't be thrilled about the state of affairs, the state of our public discourse broadly, and the state of our bathroom politics. It's all just become so very bizarre. And I, for one, am thoroughly exhausted by most of it. So it's not surprising to me that they decided to take some direct action and remove this particular thing from the bathroom wall. I wish that they would do it in a little more constructive way.
Oh, stop it right now. They did the right thing, and the next one should go too. All right, in the minute we have left, Inez, the New York Times takes a shot at the transgender thing again. Pamela Paul, who's actually one of their more fair writers, does a piece on detransitioners, which was compelling and awful, talking about 15-year-olds getting double mastectomies and what it's like to be a detransitioner, how you get kicked out of the club. It's a lot of bullying and so on. And of course, on cue, GLAAD and the other groups attack her as full of disinformation and, try to undermine her credibility. So what does it say that the Times aired this piece, that it ran this piece, and what do you make of the backlash?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say I do agree with you. Pamela Paul is one of the fairest people at the New York Times. I think that's a really short list, but she's on it. So I don't want to attack her personally, but there is this sense with this piece, although I'm glad it's going in front of a New York Times audience. In many ways, that's the audience that needs to see this message. I mean, there is a little bit of an annoyance, I think, shared by a lot of people on the right that, 5 years after we're called horrific names and crazy and bigoted and right-wing and transphobic and insane, that the New York Times can print basically what we've been saying for years and years and years, and something as basic as there is such a thing as a boy and a girl, and they're not interchangeable, and that, applying really radical medical procedures to minors in the quixotic attempt to change their sex is a bad thing, will be looked back at with horror.
With no apology.
There is that little annoyance in the framing of like, well, the right-wing bigots are still wrong, but maybe we went a little too far. So I find that tone very irritating.
Well, I don't care what the backlash is. Pamela Paul, keep writing, keep researching, because there's many, many more out there, and the money behind this industry needs to be exposed too. Sorting through your expense tracking, estimated payments, and all those deductions is overwhelming. It might lead to a failure to file or failure to pay penalties that pile up on your tax debt. Here's an idea. The attorneys at Tax Network USA have been lifesavers for many. Their team has successfully saved clients over $1 billion in tax debts. Whether you're in the hole for 10 grand or staring at a $10 million debt, they are ready to help. Even if you haven't filed in 1, 5, or 10 years, the expert attorneys and tax pros at Tax Network USA are equipped to secure the best settlement for you and to help you resolve all tax cases no matter how they started. Go to tnusa.com/Megyn, tnusa.com/Megyn, or call 1-800-245-6000. Contact them now, as these tax debt relief programs are expected to change. tnusa.com/Megyn, or call 1-800-245-6000 and tell them Megyn Kelly sent you. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.